Well, hey guys, so today we are going to talk about animating sort of multiple objects inside your environment to see if we can't maybe time them and get a sort of a sequence made by virtue of things kind of coming in and coming out. Now, there's a real simple way of doing this that doesn't look very professional, and there's a way of doing this to make it look a little nicer. And I'll show you how we can do this to make it look a little nicer, because there's a lot of really cool tools we can use here in Premiere. So we've got, open up Premiere and click on a new project, and we're going to call this animating type. So as that opens up, what this is going to basically do is be a part of future projects. So when we do our, shall we say, credits at the end of the video, we're going to be creating credits much like this. So let's go ahead and click New Item, and let's click a color matte. Oops, not captions. Let's just click on this little new color matte. Make sure it's 1920 by 1080, and press OK. And choose your color. I'm going to choose, I'll choose a dark blue shade here, maybe towards almost black. You know what, I'll just choose black. Press OK. And I'll call this, we'll call this animating text. So you can choose whatever color you want. I'll just use black. And we'll have this be about 10 seconds in length, like most of our videos have been in the past, just to kind of get a good grip on in terms of how this is going to work here. And so let's go ahead and create a text element. But before we do this, let's go over here to our sort of display, our preview here, and let's click on this little wrench icon. And I want to find my safety margins here. So let's click on our safe margins. This is just a good way of giving us some straight lines that we can do if we want to, make sure things are lined up at least vertically. Our text will obviously be moving horizontally, but let's see if we just can't make sure they sort of land in the same spot here. Okay, so let's go ahead and click our text, and let's just click anywhere inside there, and we're going to do the idea of starring, directed by, and edited by. We're going to have a couple of names fly by, and then we're going to have the different things kind of come up. So what we'll do is we'll start off. We'll just type in starring. I'll make this all caps. Okay, so I want us to choose a new font. So double click your text, find your effect controls, and let's find a sans serif font. So definitely do this in all caps. Find any sans serif font that you want. Basically, we talked about this before. It doesn't have the little tails on the bottom or little caps on the top here. Let's find something that's sort of bold and easy to read here. I'm going to find, let's look, if not, here we go, Robusto Sans. Now you can, obviously if you don't have this, then you can use a different one. I'm going to improve the tracking on this. The tracking is, instead of having them all smushed together, I'm just going to take my little tracking over here. I'm going to hover over the 0. I'm just going to move these apart just slightly. Once again, click on it and drag it out. Just press up. So we can get them sort of spread out slightly here. That's really good. All right. All right, so just affect the tracking in some way. Don't have your letters smushed up like that. And I want to say this doesn't have any bold to it. That's okay though. All right, so I'll have the word starring. I'll have that be kind of big. Let's click off of this, and let's click a new text item, and you can put your name or someone who's in your group. So I'll click my little text right here, and I'll just put my name for each one of these things. I'll just put Mr. Bello. And I'll make this a good deal smaller, so I'll shrink down the font size a little bit from 100 to say a little bit smaller right there. That's really good. Or yeah. All right, and then we'll just have that there. And I have mine in 6 ways. Now let's click off of that. Let's make sure that these are kind of positioned around the same. So I'm going to zoom in slightly. Click on where it says fit. I'll zoom into about 100%, and I'll just move down to where I can see that they're both lined up. The letters are lined up on the safe margins here. So precisely where they land on the y-axis isn't super important, but we do want to make sure they land on the same area with the x-axis. I'll make this a little bit smaller. Actually, you know what? I'll make starring a little bit smaller, just since the name is what's important. So I'll make starring a little smaller, and I'll make just a little bit bigger. So just slightly. The anchor points for text, if you can see over here, is actually in the bottom corner. So just it's sort of showing you where it begins and where the bottom of the letters sort of land. Okay, so with that done, let's pull back out to fit, and let's create some keyframes here. So I want this to be about 4 seconds in length. I want this whole animation to be. I want it to take about a second to come in, last for about 2 seconds, and then exit at about 4 seconds. So another second here. So let's go see if we can match it up to sort of 4 seconds in, and then we'll just sort of clip our text. Oops, right about there. That's good. Okay, so let's go over to our animations over here, and we'll just click on our effect controls, and let's select. I'll put starring on top just so I know it's above it. So what we'll do is we'll just click on starring, and we'll just activate our position keyframes, and we'll move forward to 1 second, and we'll put in a new keyframe by clicking this little button right here, this add or remove keyframe. It's in the middle of these arrows, and we'll move over to 2 seconds, and we'll click another one, and we'll move to the very end. I'm gonna highlight 2 and 3 over here, just so when I press the down button, it'll take me to the very end, and I'll just click another keyframe at the very end here. Okay, so with starring, I'm going to have it come in from the side. So I'm going to come to my first keyframe here, and I'll just go to, say, 25% or so. Yeah, 25%. And instead of dragging it, I want it to come in on a straight line here. All I want to do is I'm just going to manipulate the x-axis here. So instead of clicking on this once, click and hold, and then drag your mouse, or I'm using my touchpad here, until it goes completely off the screen. And then let's play this here. Comes in and just kind of pauses there. All right. Let's go to this keyframe right here, and what we'll do is we'll leave that the way it is. We'll leave the next keyframe the way it is, and the last keyframe we'll have it leave here. So what we'll do is we'll just pull it over, and let's see if I can't sort of pull this. It's hard to see. Obviously, it's gone now. So what I'll do is I'll just go back 1 keyframe here, and what we'll do is we'll drag this out to about just like 2400, I'd say. Let's see what this looks like. Alright, it disappears. Let's a little bit higher. I want to say maybe 3000 or so. 3,000 or so. Okay, let's see what this looks like. So it comes in, hangs around, and then leaves. Good. Okay, great. Okay, so with that done, I wonder if I could, maybe even a little bit less. That's okay though. With that done, let's do the same thing with Mr. Labello, with the name of whoever's starring. Let's click on your name, whoever's starring in the film, and let's do the same deal here. Let's click on this. We'll just separate these same sort of deal. We'll just click, and we'll go to our Mr. Labello. We'll put a keyframe here, activate your keyframes, and then we'll go to 2 seconds, in this case 3 seconds, and we will put a keyframe there, and we'll go to the end, and we'll put a keyframe here as well, and at the very beginning, and make sure there's a keyframe at the very beginning. So with the name, I'm going to have that come in from the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this down until it's off the screen, and then when I play this, it'll come up. They'll meet in the middle, and then as that leaves, I'm going to have this leave as well. So let me just let's say I didn't quite do this right, did I? I think I had it on for 1 second. I see what happened. Okay, so I had my starring last not quite long enough here, so let me see if I can go to 3 seconds in, and I'll just match this up. Obviously, if you want to time it a little bit differently, you can. That's fine too. Let's see how this looks. Comes in, lasts about 2 seconds, and then blast off. That's actually a bit too fast. I might have it be on screen for about a second, just because it's scrolling by. So let's just do this. We'll go to 2 seconds here. And we'll do the same thing for this one. We'll have this about 2 seconds. Now, what we'll do is at the very end, we'll just scroll up with this. So at this last keyframe here, we'll just scroll up with our Y until it's off the screen. Say 1500. Let's try that. So let's see what this looks like. We come in, we stop. Oh, we have to go down. Looks like. All right. So what we'll do is we'll go back to this one here, and we'll go down to. Try 0. Alright, not quite far enough. Let's keep going down. Let's say negative 500. Comes in. It flees out. And okay, good. Okay, so that's nice, but like I said before, it looks kind of basic. So let's see if we can affect this to make it sort of like come in and sort of like ease in, as it were, and sort of slow down. So what I'm going to do is with my Mr. Lobello, or I'll start with starring, I'm just going to go into my little keyframes here. I'm going to select both of these keyframes, these little badges here. I'm going to right click on these, and I'm going to click on Temporal Interpolation and choose Continuous Bezier. And let's see, it might be difficult to tell what's happening right now, but we'll just, it comes in. Alright, so it's very subtle at this point, but basically what you're seeing here is it sort of slows down as it comes in, and then it sort of gets going and then speeds up as it leaves. So what we want to do is we want to actually make this a bit more noticeable by clicking over here to our position and find this little arrow next to the stopwatch. And if you look right here, it's if you look on yours, you can see that there's these little bars, these little barbells here. If I were to grab one of those little barbells and sort of drag it from the sort of center towards the edge, what you're seeing is the velocity, the speed of your animation. So as you can see up here, it's very fast and it slows down. We'll do the same thing over here. We'll sort of like pull this away, and maybe not quite so drastic here. But we'll have this little mountain over here, this little peak over here. So let's see what this looks like here. All right, comes in, slows down. Okay, cool. All right, so we'll do the same thing to the other track here. What we're going to do is we're going to go to our first track here. We'll just we'll select these two, and we'll right-click on them. Temporal Interpolation, Continuous Bezier, and we'll hit this little arrow down here, and we'll do the same thing. We'll just grab these little barbells here, these little handles. Pull one towards the left, pull one towards the right. And let's take a look at this. Alright, so that's really slick looking. It's very smooth and very, very, very nice looking. So we'll do this. We'll do this 3 more times. We'll say starring, we'll say directed by, and then we'll say edited by. So let's do this 3 more times. I'm actually going to go ahead and make just a new text box here, and I'll just make it over here to the side. Let me click off of this real quick. I'll just click on my text tool. I'll go to Fit. And we'll do the same thing. We'll say directed by, click off of there, click a new text box here, and I'll just say Mr. Lobello. You can put someone else in your group if you want. That's fine too. And let's see here. I want to say for my starring, I'll take a look at my keyframes here with my size. My font was 65 for starring. I'll do directed by, I'll do 65 as well. So that's 65, and then for Mr. Lobello, I want to say that was probably 100. Let's take a look at this. That's interesting. Well, what we can do here is we can actually just we definitely don't want to copy and paste these things so they have different positions here. We'll just eyeball this. I'll just size this up a little bit, say to 100. Right? and we'll have these lined up to the edge over here. So we'll just, and I'll even lay this directed by. So let me just get I'll pull this up to the top here, and I'll pull this down, and we'll just have this lance together here, and we zoom in some, say about 100%, and I'll make sure they're lined up to this little safe margin here with my select tool. Just pull this inside and make sure that we're using the actual letters, not the bounding box. The bounding box is a little bit of padding on the ends. So it's right here. Make sure it's just touching it. Looks intentional. All right, good. Okay, so same thing. We'll have we'll have 4 keyframes. We'll have a keyframe at the very beginning. I'll just activate my position. We'll have a keyframe about the second in. So in this case, I'm at 4 seconds. Let me actually go here to. Let me actually go to 4 seconds exactly. I'll go to 5 seconds. I'll pull this over here. All right, so I still have my keyframe at the very first frame of this text, and I'll go to 6 seconds in. I'll make a new keyframe, and I'll go to 7 seconds in. Make a new keyframe, and I'll go to the very end and make a new keyframe. Or the 2 seconds. Let's take a look here. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, so we'll do the same deal as before, but with this one that's on the top, I'll have this one come in from the top and go down to the bottom. So I'm going to go back to fit, and I'll do the same deal as before. I'll have this come in, I'll just select my tool here, I'll just pull this back and have it go up. Then when you come down here, it'll go down. And my last keyframe, I have the wrong thing selected on. Oops. Get this up here. Alright. So we've got. Okay, good. Alright, let's just make sure we've got this kind of happening here. So again, I'll go to 5 seconds. I'll pull this up here. We're at 501. Go to 5. I'll pull it forward to 6. New keyframe. Pull it forward to 7. New keyframe, and we'll go to the very end, and we'll have a new keyframe here. Alright, good. Okay, so once again, make sure we have directed by selected here. So we'll have directed by, and our first keyframe, we'll have it fly in from the top. And then we'll go to our next keyframe here, make sure that's where it needs to be. And our last keyframe, we'll pull this all the way down towards the bottom. Let's see about, let's say about 2,000 or so. Let's see what it looks like. Directed by. Go. And it gets off the screen. That's good. Okay, maybe even not quite so far. Let's try 1,500. See where that lands us. And it flies out. That's fine. Okay. So we'll do the same thing with the Mr. Libello, but instead of having it fly in from the top, we'll have it fly in from the left. So basically, it'll come in from the other side that the Mr. Libello from before came in as. And let's just have this, we'll just come in like this. Libello, we'll have a keyframe here. Activate our position. We'll go in to about 6 seconds. Put another one in. Oops. Another keyframe in. Put another keyframe in here. At about 7 seconds. And we'll go to the very end and put the last keyframe in. And so, like we said before, we're going to have this come in from the side. So for this first keyframe, so we're on the right keyframe here, I want to say. Okay, good. Let's have this. Is this right? I wonder if we zoom in some here. Put my first keyframe here. Okay, so the first keyframe, we'll just have that pulled off to the side here. We'll click on our X coordinates, move that off to the side, and then we'll go forward to our next keyframe here. Right. And we'll leave that there, go to the next keyframe, and then the next keyframe we'll have it go all the way off to the other side here. So in this case we'll pull it off to, say, 42. Let's try that. Comes in and doesn't quite make it, I don't think. Yeah, all right. So let's let's a little bit longer here. So 42 is 2. Let's say negative 500. Try that. All right, and almost not quite. All right, one more time. Negative 700, 800. Then, and it is out of there. Good. Okay, great. So, with that being said, what we'll do is we'll do the same thing we did before. We'll have we'll select these two. We'll right-click on them. We'll have continuous Bezier under temporal interpolation, and we'll do the same thing we did before. We'll just drag these little handles towards the edges. One to the left, one to the right. The same thing here for Mr. Labello. Select these, right click, relation, continuous Bezier. One to the left, oops. One to the right. Alright, let's see how this goes. Alright, let's speed off. Good. Okay, great. So with that done, let's see if we can't maybe time these a bit better. So these guys are going to come in, and let's have these start to make their entrance right about the time they start to leave. So by the time they are totally off the screen, by the time they start to leave, this one will show up. So let me go here, and I'll go to the next keyframe here. As they begin to leave, I'll have these make their entrance. So I'll pull this in like this, kind of pull these up at the top. We'll have that show up right about there, about 2 seconds in. So let's see how this looks like. Alright, good. And we'll do one more. We'll do the edited by, and we'll have that be in the center, as close to the center as we can get it here. So in fact, let me just do this number here. I'll just make I'm going to go to new, and I'm going to find, let's think here, oh, never mind. I'll just click on my title, and I'll just see if I can't get it as close to the center as I can. And I'll do the same thing before. I'll just say edited by. And you'll notice that we have our same sort of letting characteristics here. And I'll just click again with my text tool. Mr. Bello. And I'll shrink down. Oops, wait. Yeah, that's good. And I'll shrink down edited by just slightly. Give it some differentiation. And I'll have these both be centered as best I can. In fact, what I'll do is this. I'm gonna zoom in some, and I'm gonna see if I can't kind of match up the center anchor point with the center of my little safe margin here. And then what I'll do is I'll zoom out to fit, and I'll just drag this down by the y coordinates here, and I'll just put it right about there. Do the same thing for Mr. Labello as well. I'll pull that down right about there, just so it's matched up at the center. Then I'll just pull up the y coordinates until it hits right about here. That's good. Okay, great. And we'll just have these come in from the top and the bottom, and then we'll have them exit to the sides on either side. So let's just do this. We'll just once again hit our keyframes here. So I'll just click. So I'm at 7:07, so I'll just remember that later. I'll have my this is Mr. Labello. I'll have my position here, and I'll go over here to a second later. Let's go to 8:07. I'll just type in 8:07, and then I'll click a new keyframe, and I'll click here. I'll click 9:07. I'll click a new keyframe, and then I'll go to the very end of this track here, a new keyframe there. And so with Visual Bellow, I'll have the first keyframe, I'll have this right here, exit towards the bottom, or come in from the bottom. So I'll just pull this down until it gets off screen here, right about there. And with my next two keyframes, it'll stay in the center, and then as it leaves, I'll just pull it up to, we'll pull it down to, say, negative like 700 or so. Let's see what that looks like. Comes in, and then it goes away up the top. Actually, wait, no, instead of that, what I'll do, let me undo what I just did here. I'll have this be going off screen. I'll have this go off to the left. So I'll just grab this and I'll just pull it off to the side until it's, say, like negative 500 or something like that. And let's see what that looks like. So this flies in, and then it comes out to the side there, and makes it off the screen. Good. Okay, we'll do the same thing with edited by. We'll have edited by come in from the top. So let's go ahead and come to the top here, and we'll just click on our little position, and then we'll go from 707 to 807, or a second later. So all you gotta do is type the seconds and then the number of frames in your playhead here, and then we'll do 907, and we'll press down so we get to the end. Make a new keyframe here. Oops, one more keyframe at 907. 907. New keyframe. All right. So with edited by, we want it to come in from the top. So we'll just go here, and I'll just have this go over to the top, right off the screen. And it'll play this, comes in. Okay, and then as this leaves, we'll do this, we'll have it go to the right instead. So I'll pull this forward, say about 3,000. Let's see what that looks like. Comes in, and then they both leave. It actually goes a bit faster, so maybe I'll just make this a bit farther away. Negative 1,000 or so. Alright, try that and see what it looks like. Comes in. It's alright. Okay, so we'll do the same thing. We'll select our two keyframes here, and we'll right click on them, and we'll have Temporal Interpolation, click Continuous Bezier, and we'll get our peaks here. So pull this out. We'll pull this out too. There. And we'll do the same thing with edited by. We'll select these two here. I'll go to Temporal Interpolation, Continuous Bezier, and we'll do the same thing. We'll pull one of these little bars out here, one out to about here, and let's see what this looks like. Come in, and they fly off. Right, they start to go. Okay, so let's put these here. We'll just kind of scroll up a little bit. Let's select both of these, and we'll set them right here on top of our other piece here. We'll go in and say about, let's look here, let's click on this, and let's go to the keyframe where they start to leave. About there, we'll have them come in right about there. Bam. Okay, good. Alright, we could even maybe just coordinate this to where it ends at the very end here, so the whole thing takes about 10 seconds. And then we'll have this come in. Not sure if we can really manipulate these the same way we're looking for, but maybe it's kind of at 3 seconds, and so then that's really good, the way it was before. So okay, good. So let's take a look at this. So hello. Okay. So now, if you want, maybe for instance, a little more wiggle room, a little more, time between each one. This color map that I have chosen for black. I mean, obviously you could just extend this out a little bit if you want to make this like 15 seconds instead. So maybe we could make this 15 seconds or so, or maybe 12 seconds, and then we can sort of line this up to be at the very end here, and hopefully we can get a little more kind of padding with these. Okay. What's there? Let's take a look at this. No. That's good. All right, and then they rush off at the very end. Very cool. All right, so case in point, what we've got going on here is just a way of coordinating our animations to have things sort of appear on screen with a sort of different sort of dynamic to their motion. Instead of having them just be a linear motion, just a completely even speed the entire time, we can have it speed up, slow down, and we can just add a little something to the animation. All right, so just make sure your name's on there under edited by, and can't wait to see you guys produce. Export this as an MP4 and submit it to D12.